Good morning and welcome to Preparing for Prosperity. This is AJ Harrison. So it has been about 2 months since our last episode. Today is Sunday, July, I believe it's the 30th. And we don't usually do an episode on Sunday, but for the last couple months, I don't usually do an episode. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right in. So I want to start off with thanking anybody that stuck around and has come back. A 2-month break on a 4-month-old podcast is significant. And it was one of those deals where I was using my catering area as my office as well, and the storage area, and we went into a big remodel and reorganization of everything, and my desk has just been a pile of stuff because we haven't finished reorganizing yet, because I'm not big on organization. I'd love to be organized, but I'm not great at doing it. So not having a desk has been a great excuse to not do a podcast. It's been a busy summer. We've had a lot going on, and no excuses, but I am back, and we are going to see where we can make this thing go. So, in the last couple months, and I need to go back and listen to my last couple episodes. Again, I've been meaning to do this episode for legitimately 2 months, and I just have made everything else the priority and allowed other things that are not my 3 things of the day to become more important. And so do a podcast has been on my list basically every day for the last 2 months. And it's gotten to the point where I've almost got this fear of doing it because it's been so long. And then I talk myself out of it, and then I say all the reasons that I shouldn't. And then next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm going to do it tomorrow. And I get up in the morning and, it's irrigation season, it's haying season, it's catering season, it's all the things. And I've just let myself become sidetracked. And I don't like it because I really enjoy talking to this microphone. I really enjoy talking to you folks, all 16 or 17 that were listening to each episode. So with that, we are back. Couple things that we have going on just to kind of check in and let you all know. We have finalized and secured our contract for custom cutting and utilization of a 55-acre piece of property here in our hometown with some friends of ours. Since they bought it, I've been somewhat involved in trying to help and be, a knowledge base and give some insight and help when I can. But there's been a kind of a disconnect between the first summer that the new owner took over, because it was leased for a couple years. The first couple years that after he owned it, the original people that were using it, he was leasing it to them. Then he decided no more. So then myself and the gentleman that I cut hay with, we're gonna hay it. And then it was really smoky that summer, and timing wasn't happening on what the landowner thought it should. And so he became frustrated and then had somebody else cut it the next year, which was fine. I'm not going to lose a friendship over a business deal. And that was the kind of the conversation that we had, and the conversation that I had with my wife. And, there's plenty of things out there for business, but really good friends are hard to come by. And so I was just more interested in sweeping that under the rug. And in the last 2 years, since I have not been haying it, he's had another custom hayer come in that has just, frankly, kind of screwed him over a lot. And so coming into this spring, the conversation was, I'm just going to let the field go fallow. And I don't know if I even want to cut the hay so that it wasn't fertilized. And then we've had a really weird spring. It didn't get hot until way later than it typically does as far as warm, but then it got hot. But we had a really, really wet spring. So we really didn't have to do a ton of irrigation coming up into like the 4th of July-ish area when we cut. It was actually one of those deals where the hay was ready for 3 weeks and we couldn't do anything about it because every time you got a day where you wanted to go cut, the field was still wet and there was rain projected for tomorrow, and it still rained tomorrow. And if you have cut hay or you know anything about hay, you need to let your field dry for a couple days ahead of time, and then you cut it. And if you use a sickle mower or something that lays it flat in 2 days, typically 2 days, you can go ahead and rake it and then bale it that same day that you rake it. If you use a swather, you cut it and let it dry for a day or two, and then because it's already in windrows, then you use a rake and you roll it over, and then you let it dry for a couple more days typically, and then you rake it and bale it. We use a sickle bar mower or mowers that kind of lay it flat because it makes it a little bit faster for the drying, and it makes the windrows easier to attain. So for everything that we wanted to do for haying, we couldn't until right about the 4th of July. And the gentleman that owned the field was interested in cutting it because didn't have any fertilizer expense and didn't have really any expense into the field as far as that cutting of hay. And there was quite a bit of hay on the ground. So I talked him through how to do it. He did it wrong. Thought he knew better. Didn't really listen to how I explained it. And so he went ahead and cut it while I was at a multi-day conference out of cell service. We catered the Montana Christian Fellowship Conference, the first through the 3rd or whatever of July. And so I got back to the field being mostly cut and mostly cut wrong. And he was having a heck of a time with it and just kind of said, hey, what do you want to finish it? So we struck a deal. I undercut myself a little bit because one, there's always things to do to make money. Friendship, going back to it. Friendship is worth more. And two, there's always that aspect of, you've got somebody that's really frustrated with something and they don't really have any desire to do with anything. And if you can come in and help them out and ease the tension and ease the situation of it, you can put both yourself and them in a better situation. So I took a modest percentage. I did it on percentage. I don't do any sort of hang work by the hour because it's just too hard to figure out hours and just too messy. It's easier to go, you get X percent, I get Y percent. And then when the total's there, you make the division and you're good to go. Versus counting every single hour and what hour counts for what and all those things. So, got everything through there, got him and his wife happy, about the fact that they actually generated some money off the hay. I took care of a lot of the pain in the butt work of it. I spent a lot of hours in the field. He did actually come help me. The deal we struck was for me to finish the haying, me to come in and rake it and then use his tractor and baler, because he makes small square balers. Or small square bales. So he has a tractor and a small square baler. And so the deal that we made, because I was taking a modest percentage, was that we would use his equipment to cut or to bale, and then we would use one of our tractors to rake it. And so I'd get out there and I'd start raking. I'd be out there for 3 or 4 or 5 hours raking, and he would get done with his work day or have some free time. And all of a sudden his tractor's puttering out in the field with the baler, and he's pooping out bales in the back and following me around the field. And we were able to make pretty quick work of it, and it was fantastic. And it's a great field. It's a great location. Most of it is irrigated with a single center pivot. And the permaculture folks are like, oh no, oh my goodness. But it is what it is. And we have goals, for what we want to do with that piece of land. And a lot of that involves rotational grazing and stuff. But, when you have a piece of equipment in place, and you have, and you have systems in place, our goal with it is to start cutting back on the use of chemical fertilizers and start some other stuff. And I'm working on the plan for that right now. So I don't want to say a whole lot, but I'm thinking we're going to go start doing some fertigation through the pivot, because you can do some cool timing stuff. We're working on some Johnson Sioux style compost that we can make compost tea to inject. So we've got some stuff in mind for it. But for right now, we're trying to just keep the income coming in off that piece of property while we slowly make some transitions. And so that they can make some income, but so I can make some more income off of farming, and kind of alleviate some of the stress off of there, so that we can focus on the podcast, the farming, the market garden, and just living this life the way we want to live. So that's kind of the game plan there. But anyway, so he helped me with baling it. We got it all taken care of. And then when it come time to settle up about a week later, because I wasn't really in a rush to get paid. I don't, we live a pretty modest income life, and we keep, we keep some money in the bank so that we don't have to worry about getting paid for everything right away. So they were able to kind of figure everything out, and then we went over and we had a couple ciders, and our wives are great friends. That's the reason that I met my wife, is from these folks actually. And so had a couple ciders. My wife and his wife, talked and did some things. The kids played, and we just kind of shot the breeze and talked about farming and how we wanted to go and what we were going to do moving forward, and how we wanted to handle, fertilizing and the split and maintenance on the pivot and all the things. And so it was a pretty good conversation. So now we have a deal in place going forward. So now I'm involved in about 100 acres of land production, of hay production. And that's pretty awesome. In my book, I'm pretty happy about it. And so I'm chronologing, I don't know the word for that. And I'm not going to cut this out. So basically I'm keeping track of, and I've got a new, series that I'm putting out onto TikTok and onto Facebook about how you can literally farm and do the things you want to do without having to own that dirt. The 40 acres the 140 acre chunk that we run is in a trust. It's in a 100-year trust. We're less than 15 years into it. One of my best friends in the world, who's also one of my biggest mentors, knew the guy that passed away, whose land it was. My friend's family homesteaded and like actually squatted on this piece of property before the owner of it, who died in his 90s. He was the children of the folks that actually owned and bought the land that like kind of kicked my friend's family off. So there's a lot of history there. And my friend has hayed and run cows on that 40 acres for years and years and years. And it was multiple thousands of acres, but it got kind of sold off through the years, through the wars, through all that kind of stuff, down to the 40 acres. And so we farm that in conjunction with a trust. And there's a deal worked out on the trust where we are basically caretaking that, and we get to reap the benefits of doing the labor. So we're not actually making money off of it, but we're reaping the benefits of it. We're getting to use or sell the hay off of it, all of the things involved. But we're also doing a lot of maintenance and stuff. So we've got that. We've got another little over 8 acres that's about 8 or 10 miles south of me. That's one field that we strictly hay. That's owned by another person, and we just kind of we lease that for a very simple lease. And they actually live in Arizona or something like that now. So I'm involved in almost 100 acres, and I have a fair bit of say and influence in all of them. And that's been a goal and a dream of mine for a long time. I would eventually love to have more acreage. Ideally, I would like to have that sweet spot of 5 to 8 that I own. I would love to own 100 acres. But with with the family connections, with my wife having uprooted and moved here from Massachusetts, and having built relationships with folks, with our daughter being born here and then passing away, and then being, her remains are buried in the cemetery here. We're not going to be moving. And so while we could sell our 1 acre house, and move to, somewhere in Tennessee or, North Carolina or something like that, and pay cash for a place and have extra and have that acreage and space, we're for lack of a better word, we're stuck. And we're not mad about that. We're not sad about that. We're here for the long term. And so, rather than being nomadic and picking up and just moving somewhere where it's easier, we're going to continue to do this. And it's not an easy place because we are in a high mountain desert. This Missoula Valley area here is high and dry, and we get quite a bit of our precipitation is from snowpack. And then we typically get a fair bit of rain in the spring. And then once June hits, we don't get much rain at all. And we're in the middle of that now. We haven't had much rain at all since the 4th of July, and everything is drying out. And now we're in fire season. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling on. But we've got that hay ground secured. I've got the propane tank set in the driveway for the dispenser. We're working on getting it wired right now. I have everything to do that now. The garden is doing great. I screwed up royally on some spacing things. Our pumpkins are planted 3 feet apart, and 3 feet on center from the next row, and they're eating everything for space. So that's my bad. But we've got a lot of good stuff going on. Our boys are back from Denver as of technically Friday, but yesterday really, because they got back in about midnight. We've got just all sorts of things. There might be cows in the works. We've done our first chicken butchering last week. I'm going to butcher more chickens this afternoon. I am not good at chicken butchering, and we are definitely not set up for it. But I don't know that we're actually going to continue with meat chickens, because in looking at it and thinking about it, quail might be a better option for us. I really want to do meat rabbits. I've eaten and butchered and skinned and processed and stuff with rabbits before, and they're quite a bit easier. I'm just not a big fan of the stink of the chickens. And yeah, so I will say though, what we're butchering right now are the roosters from the straight run that we got from friends of ours this spring when we were trying to bulk up our chicken flock, our egg layers. So we're only yielding about 3.5 pounds a bird, and they're 16 weeks old right now, and the cost per pound is just astronomical. So I don't know if we're going to continue doing that. I am thinking that we're going to continue to pasture and move our laying hens in that Siskovich style chicken tractor that we built. Put some egg boxes in there and continue to move it around, because it is phenomenal the difference in the lawn where the chickens have been. And we've been backseeding with clover and daikon radish and a pea and oat and barley mix. And a lot of those aren't really taking on, but we're also not irrigating a whole lot there anyway. So fantastic things happening. And I really want to go into some details and go down some rabbit holes on a lot of those things. But I'm just trying to catch you folks up today. Now, this coming week, the first week of August, we are leaving on Thursday to do a 50-mile, 5-day float trip with the Boy Scouts. My 2 oldest boys are, they are actually, hopefully by the middle of next week, going to be second class Boy Scouts, and they're working on first class and then moving up through. And so we are doing a 5-day float on the Clark Fork River, and it's going to be fantastic, but I'm not going to be around. And so this is another reason why I haven't really been pushing doing the podcast, is because I've been in and out so much that it's been kind of difficult. And, yes, inconsistency is better than nothing. I will admit that, and that's my bad. But the ums are really coming out today. So I can tell that I don't really have a script or any notes. I literally was out changing irrigation, trying to fix that stuff, and listening to Jack Spirko's survival podcast from last week. And Nicole Sauce was roasting Jack. It was part of his 15-year anniversary party. And Nicole I've been really getting I've been really getting kind of slapped in the face when I listen to Living Free in Tennessee podcast these last few weeks, because I know that I'm not doing what I want to do, which is the podcast. I'm also not running the freeze dryer. It's been off the whole time that I haven't been podcasting, and that's a lot of investment just sitting there doing nothing. But it's also a lot of time that you can't get back, because you can't ever reutilize that time. And with freeze drying, there's prep work involved and everything, but you literally walk away from it for up to 2 days in between. So there's really no excuse. A big factor in the reason why I haven't been running it is because our garage has been hitting mid 80s during the day and into the evening. And as anybody that has run a freeze dryer before knows, that's not good. The freeze dryer doesn't work very efficiently. It overheats. It takes a lot longer to process. And so this last weekend, I installed a mini split. And it is a Senville Leto mini split. Comes pre-charged. It's kind of a DIY setup. Says right on the thing that if you do it DIY and you're not a professional, it will void your warranty. But I have installed a few of the Mr. Cools, and this was actually one that we bought for Grandma's house, but it was sitting here, and I was tired of it being 95 or 85 to 90 in the garage, where we have our freezers and all of our stuff, and really starting to worry about food quality breaking down, and all that kind of stuff. So I just said, screw it. And I went ahead and installed that guy, and it's been averaging about 72 in there. And so that makes me happy. That fills me with joy. And that also makes me want to get going with freeze drying stuff again. Because we also lost a freezer in the last week and a half. And we do have monitors in our freezers. They are YoLink brand, Yolink, and they are from the dreaded Amazon. And we have 12 of those sensors. We have one in each of our freezers. We have one in each of our refrigerators. I have one in my catering shed / office / storage extraordinaire area, one in the garage, and we have one in the greenhouse. And it is a phenomenal tool for tracking what's going on, because you get a text alert. You get an alarm on your phone that says something's off with your freezer. And so we were at church, and we had just gotten to church, and the alarm started going off. And I'm like, that's weird. Well, we'll be okay. And so the entire time through church, the alarm was going off. By the time we got home, stuff was starting to thaw, and the temperature reading was like 45 in there. So it was definitely not working. And lo and behold, that was the day I was going to go ahead and dispatch some chickens and get them processed. So that was paused. And an emergency Sunday trip to Missoula was put forth to go buy the only upright freezer larger than 11 cubic feet, which was at Lowe's. And I'm not a big fan of shopping at Lowe's and Home Depot, especially for appliances. I like to buy that stuff at Costco, to be honest, because while we don't carry a balance on our credit cards, we do have credit cards. And mainly that's for the rebates and stuff like that. But also, if you buy appliances at Costco and it comes with a 2-year warranty, well, if it's an electronic and it's an appliance and that kind of thing, when you buy that and you use your Costco card, your Costco credit card, which is now backed by Visa, it used to be American Express, you automatically get 2 more years of warranty. So you're getting 4 years of warranty on your appliance, for no extra cost. And so I like to do that or shop at some of the other places, but 2:00 on a Sunday and everywhere I called didn't have what we were looking for. And I did not want another chest freezer. We have a 15 and we have a 24 cubic foot chest freezer. They take up a lot of floor space. And so I've made a commitment to my wife that every other freezer that we have will be a upright freezer. They're easier to organize and such. So went ahead and got a new freezer and then some other things. And so there's been a lot going on. And I want to dive into some of the things like why you should have a freezer warning. Now, I just told you why you should have one. There was probably, no joke, close to $2,500 worth of food products in that freezer. I mean, it doesn't take much when huckleberries in Montana are selling for about $85 to $100 a gallon right now, which is astronomical. But we use huckleberries for the catering business, and this was a catering freezer that went down. And there was 7 gallons of huckleberries in there. So that's $700 worth of huckleberries. And that's like not a very big space in the freezer. And then you add into the fact that we have tri-tip that's pre-purchased, pre-done chicken breasts that are pre-portion size. And then you add briskets and rib roasts and all sorts of stuff in there. This is a protein freezer. $2,500 is probably modest. That whole system that we have, including the home unit and all of the sensors, was $300. So there's the quick blurb. If you don't have them, you need them. If you have one freezer, you need it. The nice thing about it is they're piecemeal. You buy everything individually. They're about $25 to $40 per sensor. Put one in each of your refrigerators. Put one in each of your freezers. They also have leak detectors that can either just alarm you or shut off the main water to your house, that can go like with your water heater or under a sink or something like that. Our water heaters in our crawl space, if it leaks, we're literally out nothing, because it's just going to drain right through the gravel into the ground. It's going to suck because it's going to be expensive, but it's not like we have this super huge issue. So I haven't done that yet, but I should, because that could be super expensive. So yeah, there's a lot going on. And I'm not going to go super long today. We're already pushing a little bit of time, but again, I just really want to thank anybody who has taken the time to listen to this, to stick around, to come back, to gamble with your time again. Because it is, I went from, I'm going to do three a week to, I just completely bailed on it. So not going to bring it up again. The past is the past. I appreciate you being here. We're going to be gone starting on Thursday. So I will do, another podcast either tomorrow morning, on Monday, or in the afternoon. And I would like to do a second one, hopefully on Wednesday. But Wednesday, we're going to go blueberry picking a couple hours away at a U-Pick place as a family. And so hopefully I can get that tied in there. But when we get back on the 8th of August, I am around and back for the long haul. And so we will get into a lot more of a standardized schedule from there, and start talking about a lot more about freeze drying and the cool things that we want to do, the tests, the experimentations. Freeze drying is going to become a lot bigger part of the podcast, as well as what we have going on with farming, and then kind of my insights on stuff. So with that, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. My name's AJ Harrison, and you can hit me up at preparingforprosperity.com, and the email address is aj@preparing4prosperity@proton.me. And I would love to have one email from one listener. Hasn't happened yet. And that would be pretty awesome. So with that, have a great afternoon, and we will talk to you tomorrow.